Welcome back to another edition of the Saturday to Sunday Football Podcast. I am Paul Perdichizzi, and thank you for joining me as always. Week 8 of the college football season is in the books. Week 7 of the NFL concluded last night with another Monday Night Football doubleheader. Here at Saturday to Sunday, we once again break down everything from this past weekend with the 2026 NFL Draft Report, the NFL Rookie Report for Week 7, and then conclude with the Fantasy Dynasty Report, talking about some players that you should be looking to buy or sell for your Dynasty teams. But as we always do, let's kick it off with the NFL Draft Report for Week 8 of the college football season. Let's kind of jump right into it, start where we always do, which is with the quarterbacks. And let's talk about first a little bit of the guys I think that struggled, and then we'll spin it to the guys that look good this week and talk about where things stand right now. Carson Beck had Miami in prime position as a number 2 team in the country, but that poor decision-making for Carson Beck started to rear its ugly head against Louisville the other day. He had 4 interceptions. Miami goes down to Louisville, and that poor decision-making is what has defined Carson Beck since last year. And when he went from many people thinking potentially the first pick in the draft to not declaring last year, transferring, and now being looked at as maybe a day 2 or early day 3 prospect, that once again reared its head in this past week's game. And I think at this point now, he is who he is. Like, I don't think he's going to find his way back into round 1 or even the top 50 mix. I think we're talking about more now, somewhere late day 2 or day 3, a team takes a chance on him. Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU started the year for many people as the number 1 quarterback prospect in this upcoming season. A lot of up and down from him this year. LSU goes down to Vanderbilt this past weekend. Nussmeier's stats were solid, 19 of 28, 225 yards and 2 touchdowns. But you are just not seeing Garrett Nussmeier on any first-round mocks anymore. You're not seeing him on any top 3 quarterback boards for the 2026 NFL Draft. And I just think it's the inconsistencies. He doesn't have any standout physical traits. And when you don't have any standout physical traits, you got to be really great at everything else. The decision-making, the going through progressions, and at times he's shown that. But when you start being inconsistent in some of that aspects and you don't have the high-end physical traits, that is going to be very hard to go as high as what people were maybe projecting him before the year started. Next up, Lenora Sellers. We know the tools that Lenora Sellers offers. Size, frame, athleticism, arm talent, playmaking ability. But we know it's still a work in progress. This past week, Oklahoma beat South Carolina. Lenora Sellers only 124 yards and 1 touchdown. Once again, not rising to the moment. I'm almost ready to start putting Lenora Sellers in the Arch Manning bucket, where I just don't see a scenario where he comes out. I guess if he thinks he still can be a top 20 pick because the team is intrigued by the traits, maybe. But I am just not sure. We've seen Anthony Richardson not make it. Probably not make it, but yes, it is. We see Justin Fields, guys who had a lot of physical traits. And Justin Fields, I feel like, was way more advanced than some of these other guys. But we know teams are intrigued by the physical traits, but we also know that more of those guys have busted lately. Listen, for everyone, you get once in a while, you get a Josh Allen. But I think Josh Allen's ability level and what he did at a program like Wyoming is different than what some of these other guys are doing. So I just think Lenora Sellers is going back to school. I think he's going back with Arch Manning, who also struggled this past week, 12 of 27, 132 yards only. So Sellers and Arch, who were at the top of my rankings when this year started, I don't think they're going to be a part of this draft class. So then you say, okay, well, who are going to be the guys who we are talking about? And I think now it's starting to crystallize completely. It's Fernando Mendoza. It's Ty Simpson. Those are 2 of the guys you're going to see at the top. And then Dante Moore, and he might not come out either. So that's kind of what we're seeing. Then you have like a guy like a John Mateer, who could be a late 1 to somewhere on round 2, another interesting name. But this past week, Fernando Mendoza continues to look like potentially the first pick in the 2026 NFL draft. 332 yards, 4 touchdowns, continues to check off all the boxes in terms of performances, in terms of arm talent, tight window throws, accuracy, everything you want to see from Mendoza, he is delivering week in and week out. So I think now for me, he's at the top position of my quarterback rankings. I don't know if that's going to change. He was already pretty high on my rankings before the year started at number 3. Now he's up to number 1, and I can kind of see him staying there the rest of the process here. Ty Simpson continues to just emerge here for Alabama, that I think he's in real consideration. I know it was Dan Orlovsky and some other people were talking about him. There's a lot of people that are very high on Ty Simpson and think he could be the QB1 in this class. I'm not ready to put him at Mendoza's level, but I do understand what he offers and why people are so intrigued with him. 19 of 29, 253 yards and 2 touchdowns. That game against Florida State from opening day looks like a far cry from what we've seen the rest of the year from him. I am really looking forward to doing a deep dive on Ty Simpson and Dante Moore. They're going to be the first 2 players I add to the scouting notebook. Did not do a deep dive on them before the season started. They were not in the mix in anybody's mind to potentially be a top 5 or top 10 quarterback prospect in this class. But now obviously they are. Those are the first 2 names I will look to get into the scouting notebook. And then John Mateer out of Oklahoma. I talked about how Oklahoma beat South Carolina this past week. 26-7 win. I've liked Mateer since the summer. He's been an interesting prospect this past week, 150 yards and a touchdown, so the stats weren't gaudy. But the thing about Mateer that's interesting is he's got that athleticism. He's got some playmaking ability. There's things about his game to like that I'm intrigued by. If Mateer comes out, what he could be at the next level. So he's another guy I'm going to be really interested to kind of follow the process here in the rest of the season and in the pre-draft months. If we flip this over to the running back, the only one I want to talk about today, I mean, Jeremiah Love's performance for Notre Dame this past week, 228 yards rushing and a touchdown, 5 catches, 37 yards in the receiving game. He offers that dual threat ability. Very intriguing player, Jeremiah Love, in terms of how high could he go. I'm going to talk about Mel Kiper's recent big board. There's a real possibility, especially in this class, that I would not be stunned if Jeremiah Love ends up being a top 10 pick. We've seen some players, we've seen some running backs, it's special ones, Ashton Genty, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey. We've seen some and others, Bijan Robinson, go in the top 10. I think it's possible that we see Jeremiah Love go in the top 10. If it's not the top 10, I think it'll be somewhere in that 10 to 20 range. If we flip this to the wide receivers, I want to start with a guy who I have not talked about, but you're starting to see a lot of buzz. Anytime I watch Tennessee play, he's standing out. I think he's in most people top 10 mixes right now in terms of his ability level for the wide receiver position, and that is Chris Brazzell, the second out of Tennessee. The junior, he's 6'5", 200 pounds. This year, he has 39 receptions for 602 yards and 7 touchdowns. Traditional outside X wide receiver. He's got the size, he's got the frame, he's got the ability to go up and high point it and make plays in the air. I love his ability to adjust. There's a lot to like about his game, and he just continues to move up the wide receiver ranks. And I think he's a guy that is a real possibility of being a top 100 pick in the 2026 NFL draft. Next up at the wide receiver position, I want to talk about Chris Bell, because Chris Bell was a guy that I came right out and said it. He was not on my radar when I first started to do my summer scouting. And then I saw Dane Brugler had him as his number 1 senior wide receiver, and I think like number 3 overall. And that perked up the antennas. And I watched him in the summer, and I think I ended up coming in. He was like my 5th or 6th wide receiver. And he was a guy that I thought I was like, wow, this is a guy that I could see what Dane sees. The size, the frame, the athleticism at that size. He looks a little bit like A.J. Brown. I've said he also looks like Hakeem Nicks, but he's got better athleticism than Hakeem Nicks. I think the body size, the body style, and the frame look like Hakeem Nicks. And Hakeem Nicks did have better acceleration than like time long speed. But Chris Bell shows me glimpses of Hakeem Nicks and glimpses of A.J. Brown. And that is a high, high praise. A.J. Brown was my number one wide receiver when he came out. Saturday, Sunday wasn't around when Hakeem Nicks came out, but I was a big fan of Hakeem Nicks. I was stoked when the Giants drafted him. So Chris Bell this past week, 9 catches, 136 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I think he's now squarely put himself in the mix to potentially be round 1. If not round 1, he would be one of those early second-round picks in the top 10 or 15 picks in round 2. But I think he's got a real chance. When he blows up the combine at his size and frame, I think he's going to put himself in position to be a first-round pick for sure. Carnell Tate, I think he's now put himself to be in position to be a first-round pick. 6 catches, 111 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He might not have one standout trait, but you know what? We said the same thing about Emeka Egbuka last year, and look how that's worked out. I don't think he's as smooth a route runner or anything like Emeka Egbuka, but he knows how to win vertically down the field. He knows how to create late separation. He knows how to stack DBs. He knows how to get open. Great length, great catch radius, great ball skills, great hands. There's a lot to like about his game, even though he might not have like this great speed or anything like that. He's not going to test out as a big-time athlete. He knows how to get open, almost think like a T. Higgins type player. I think that could be, in terms of like how he wins, stylist, the size and frame, not on par with T, but in terms of how he would win at the next level. Zachariah Branch just continues to make plays. Former, obviously, major high school recruit. We saw glimpses of that big playability at USC. Then it kind of went by the wayside, but he's refounded at Georgia. I'm going to bring his name up momentarily when I talk about Mel Kiper's big board. But Zachariah Branch is now a guy who I think has put himself in the mix to be in the top 10 wide receivers of the 2026 NFL draft. He's an elite returner. You can manufacture touches for him. He can take the top off defenses. He brings tactical value. He is what teams are looking for as like a number 2 or most likely a number 3 wide receiver. But what he brings to the table really changes the look and the dynamic of an offense. I think about a team like the Giants, and if they had a guy like Zachariah Branch, they don't have guys like that who could take the top off. Malik Neighbors is a great all-around wide receiver. He'll be back next year from injury. But besides that, they are lacking playmakers. And that's just one team. There's plenty of teams in the NFL that a guy like Zachariah Branch could come in, be like the third wide receiver, vertical slot, manufacture touches, elite returner, and have a big impact. And those guys get pushed up the board that I think he could be in the mix to be a top 50 pick. Elijah Sarrett continues to look good with Fernando Mendoza. 4 catches, 70 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Jacoby Lane out of USC, 6 catches, 111 yards, and 1 touchdown. I still struggle to see how highly regarded prospect. I know some people love Jacoby Lane, think he's a first or second round talent. I'm not there. I think he's more of like a round 3, round 4 talent. But I do see the appeal to him. Great length, great catch radius, can go up and high point the ball. I just think he's going to struggle a little bit to create separation at the next level. Makai Lemon, 4 catches, 76 yards. It was a kind of a low week for statistically, but we know how talented of a player he is. He's going round 1 for sure. So let's take this to Mel Kiper dropped his first big board this week. And it's always interesting to kind of see where Mel Kiper's big board lays, because I do think at this point in Mel Kiper's career, he gets a lot of, while he watches a lot of tape, I still think some of his sources help guide him in some of his rankings. So I always think it's interesting to kind of see where he pinpoints guys, especially when guys are on his big board that maybe we're not seeing on a lot of other people's big boards. And I think that's what stands out about his big board that I'm most intrigued with. Not going to go through the whole thing, just going to go through the offensive skill players. There's actually a bunch of them in his top 25. He had number 1, he had Dante Moore as his number 1 overall prospect in the class. Haven't seen that too many places, so I think it's a bold take. But I do think the intrigue with what Dante Moore offers, a team could like him more than maybe Ty Simpson or even Fernando Mendoza. He had Jeremiah Love as his number 2 prospect on his big board right now. I just think that what's important about that is I think it speaks volumes on just how much better Jeremiah Love is over every other running back in this class. Also, I think it speaks volumes that he is looked at on the level of the Bijans, the Saquons, the Ashton Genties. If you're going to start seeing him in top 5 of big boards, top 10s, he has to be a special prospect. I think he is a special prospect. I think he warrants going top 15. I'm not sure about top 10, but top 15 for sure. But I think he will end up in that top 15 range. His third overall prospect was Fernando Mendoza. So we had 3 offensive skill players, 1, 2, 3 to start his big board: Dante Moore, Jeremiah Love, and Fernando Mendoza. He talked about it's early in the process. So I think there's still plenty of room for him to move Mendoza to 1, move Dante Moore down, move things around. I think at number 6 and 8 are his first two wide receivers. Number 6, he had Mekhi Lemon, and number 8, he had Jordan Tyson. That's interesting. I have them flip-flopped, but I had a little bit of a separation between them. I just thought that Tyson's ability to win on the outside reminds me a lot of what Tet McMillan is bringing to Carolina this year. And Mekhi Lemon, while he has inside-outside versatility, I don't know if he's like as highly regarded as a prospect. I like him a lot. He uncovers, great separator. I think his best home is in the slot. So I guess if you look at a guy like Mekhi Lemon, you're hoping that maybe, what we've seen Jackson Smith and Najigba turn into, what we saw at Cooper Kupp at his best. If you're drafting Mekhi Lemon in the top 10, and I'm not sure he's going to go top 10. I think he's more of like a 18 to 25. But if he goes somewhere in that like 18 to 25 range, I think you're getting a guy that you hope is in that Zay Flowers to Jackson Smith and Najigba in terms of their usage, in terms of where he's probably best in the slot, but you can get some other stuff out of him also. He's got that inside-outside versatility. So Lemon at 6 raised eyebrows a little bit because I didn't ever seen him that high on anybody's big boards, and having him ahead of Jordan Tyson. At number 12, he went to Carnell Tate. So Carnell Tate was his third wide receiver. I think that's kind of where you're going to see him. Again, I don't know if Carnell Tate's a top 15 pick, but I think he's in that range, 18 to 25. I think that's kind of the sweet spot for where some of these wide receivers are going to end up going. So he's there. Kenyon Sadiq, the Oregon move tight end at number 14. I think he's going to go a little bit later round 1. I think he's going to go more where like maybe we saw Dalton Kincaid go. I don't think we're going to see him go where like Brock Bowers went in that territory. I would be surprised. I don't think he's that type of prospect. So I think we're going to see him go a little bit beyond the top 15. But I think this does show what level of prospect he is, that he came out this hot on Kenyon Sadiq to have him 14th on his big board. Ty Simpson at 16. I think that'll be the guy who moves the most on this list. I think by the time he does his next big board, I think you'll see Ty Simpson in the top 10. Lenora Sellers at there 21. I think he's going to continue to fall down, probably off of Mel's big board. Zachariah Branch, he has as his 4th wide receiver, and he has him as his 22nd overall prospect in the draft class right now. And I think that kind of has intrigued me, which is why I talked about him before. But when you talk about a guy who's got elite athleticism and speed, the value that brings, an elite returner, you can use him on a lot of different touches and things. And now we start to develop his route running a little bit and his receiving type game. If he continues to show that the rest of the year, he could find his way into round 1. I like the aggressive, bold take here from Mel because I am a fan of Zachariah Branch. And then 24, I think 22 is bold. I think 24 is also bold. Jacoby Lane. I don't see Jacoby Lane the same way Mel does and other people. I know a lot of guys at ESPN had Jacoby Lane very high in the pre-draft process. In the summer scouting before the season started. I was not there at that level for Jacoby Lane, and I'm still not. So Jacoby Lane is a guy I'm interested to kind of see how the year plays out and really do another deep dive on him and see if I'm kind of missing something, because he is a guy that offers a lot, but I just don't see first round talent for Jacoby Lane. So it's going to be interesting. But I still think there's other guys that weren't even on this list. Casey Concepcion, Elijah Sarah, Jeremy Bernard. I think those are guys that could be in the mix as well in the top 50 picks of the 2026 NFL draft. Let's spin this over to the Saturday game and do a little bit of NFL rookie report. Jackson Dart in Denver leads the Giants to 32 points. Somehow the Giants collapse and blow it. But more prevalent is just how good Jackson Dart looked. The ability, and listen, I understand the last drive, he got a little bit lucky. He could have thrown some interceptions. He got a penalty, bailed him out. I get all that. Take that out of it. Every other drive, and then the one bad interception. He went on the road against a great Denver defense. And he put up, even before that last thing, he put up 3 touchdowns. He had the Giants winning big. His ability to manipulate the pocket, to move around the pocket, to keep his eyes down the field, to throw from different arm angles and platforms, to have the athleticism to be a big-time weapon running, and to playoff structure. I'm blown away with how good Jackson Dart. And I was not a huge Jackson Dart guy. I understood the intrigue. I was very concerned about him transitioning from the Saturday game to the Sunday game in terms of the scheme. I think a lot of what he is showing, we did not see all this on Saturdays. What I do think we saw on Saturdays was his ability to handle pressure. And Todd McShay, to his credit, he was the first one to really acknowledge just how impressive Jackson Dart's tape was against pressure. And we've seen it already in his NFL career. He stands in the pocket. He's willing to get hammered, and he is not looking to take off all the time. He's looking to make plays, and his ability to slide left and right, step up in the pocket, and wait for something to develop with his eyes down the field, it is some Mahomes-like stuff. Now, am I saying he's Patrick Mahomes? If he's half of Patrick Mahomes, every Giants fan, including myself, is going to be ecstatic. But some of the stuff that made Mahomes really special early in his career, the ability to keep his eyes downfield, move laterally, step up in the pocket, and make big plays. We have seen it now against the Chargers. Then we saw it even more against the Eagles. And then this past week, you saw it against the Broncos. That 4th and 17 play where he bought time in the pocket, flipped his wrist, and found Wan'Dale Robinson, those are special plays. And I understand the Giants are not this great football team. And Jackson Dart is making them relevant. He is keeping them in games. He is winning some games that you don't expect them to. They are playing much better than you expect them to. And it is mostly on Jackson Dart's ability and his tag team partner there, Cam Skattebo. So Jackson Dart right now, stock really up on Jackson Dart in terms of what we've been seeing this year. Talked about Cam Skattebo. He has now ran away with the Giants' lead role. Tyrone Tracy's still involved, but it's Cam Skattebo's backfield now. Receiving, rushing, he's an integral part of that offense. Anybody who got him probably early to mid-second round in most rookie drafts is sitting pretty right about now. But, I mean, this is an amazing running back class. Cam Skattebo even outperforming expectations. Quinshon Judkins this past week, 3 touchdowns. I mean, at this point, like, is there a clear order in how you would rank Ashton Jeanty, Omarion Hampton, and Quinshon Judkins moving forward in Dynasty? I mean, I know before the season started, it was clearly Ashton Jeanty, then it was Omarion Hampton, and then some people had Travion Henderson, some people had RJ Harvey, some people had Quinshon Judkins. I mean, at this point, Henderson is an afterthought until he starts actually playing more. But, I mean, I think Judkins, if somebody says I'd rather have Judkins than Omarion Hampton or even Judkins over Ashton Jeanty, I don't think it's crazy right now. I still would want Ashton Jeanty and Omarion Hampton over Quinshon Judkins, but I don't think it's some outlandish take for that. And then you could probably say Cam Skattebo comes 4th in the rookies right now in terms of guys you would want moving forward. Woody Marks this past week, still waiting for him to kind of seize a little bit of a bigger role. He had 3 catches for 20 yards and a touchdown, 10 rushes for 15 yards. Can't get a lot going on the ground, but that Houston Texans offense is really, really struggling. In terms of the pass catchers, let's start with the tight end. Oronde Gadsden, the former wide receiver, converted to tight end at Syracuse, moved tight end, didn't test like a good athlete in terms of a wide receiver, and kind of tested as like maybe like an above average athlete at the tight end position. But he knows how to get open. You kind of see this morphing into early career Darren Waller or Marcus Colston, like early career when he still had like tight end designation. Like that's what you're kind of seeing here from Oronde Gadsden. 7 catches, 169 yards, and 1 touchdown. I know it was Chargers were in comeback mode. Everybody performed well. Herbert threw for like 400 yards. I get all that. But to put up those numbers speaks volumes on the potential that he has. And I think now, like you start to say, like I haven't updated my Dynasty tight end ranks. How high is too high for Gadsden? Is he in the top 8? Is he in the top 12? Like I think off the cuff, I probably think he's somewhere in like the 9 to 12 range already, just based on what we saw this past week and the upside that is there as a former wide receiver that knows how to get open. 2 other tight ends I want to talk about. Gunnar Helm, I think it was Matt Bowen of ESPN had an article of 10 players to keep a close eye on the second half of the year, and Gunnar Helm was on that list. With the firing of Coach Callahan, they might want to see what Gunnar Helm brings to the table, and he might start seeing a lot more work. Chigakonko is more of a move tight end. Gunnar Helm could be more of that complete tight end. This past week, 4 catches, 36 yards. But I think he's an interesting guy if you're in tight end premium leagues or 2 tight end leagues. I don't think Gunnar Helm's going to cost you much right now. I think he's a sneaky guy to maybe go out and get on the cheap. Because remember, prior to that poor combine, this was a guy most people thought was going to be a second or early third-round pick. He falls to the 4th round. Most people consider that lucky, considering his combine testing. Some people thought he was going to fall even further. But I think Gunnar Helm's an interesting guy. We saw Elijah Arroyo catch 4 passes for 42 yards this week. I think he's starting to materialize. I think we're going to see some big games from Arroyo down the stretch of the season, potentially turn into their second best weapon after Jackson Smith and Najigba. In terms of the wide receivers, couple names. Travis Hunter's best performance of the season, 8 catches, 101 yards, and 1 touchdown. Listen, I still think Travis Hunter is going to be a superstar. I think the Jaguars' passing game is partially broken. Liam Cohen has not been able to fix it. I think Trevor Lawrence, I think at this point now, you got to call it what it is. He's been a bust as the first overall pick. He is a average quarterback at best, but when you take somebody with the first pick overall, who people were calling generational, he's just not that guy. He is not a high-end franchise quarterback. Like, you watch Jackson Dart in the limited sample size, and he shows off things that I've never seen from Trevor Lawrence at the NFL level. So I've been saying it for a while that I think he got a free pass because of that Urban Meyer disaster. And I think now he's going to start to see a lot of heat on him for not taking the next step this year with the addition of Travis Hunter, with an offensive-minded head coach. Jalen Noel, 4 catches, 77 yards. It was nice to see him get in the mix this past week. I hope that the Texans start incorporating him and Jaden Higgins way more to try to give that offense a little bit of a spark. Jalen Lane had to play a lot with all the Commanders wide receivers out. 3 catches, 60 yards. I think he's got some big playability. I'm kind of intrigued to see where Jalen Lane develops moving forward the rest of this year, and then in particular next year. And then Tej Johnson. All he did was dominate college football. But then he came in at the combine at like 158 pounds, and he tested poorly. You can't be 158 pounds, test poorly, and then expect to be drafted high. He falls to late in the draft, but he's a player. And now with Mike Evans out the year, or at least until late into December, Chris Godwin completely unknown, there is a lot of situation here where I can see a path where Tej Johnson ends up being really relevant and then is locked into a role moving forward, maybe as their 4th wide receiver, pushing like Jalen McMillan either off the roster or down to the 5th spot. I do think that is definitely possible. Let's close out the show tonight with a quick Dynasty Fantasy Report. At the quarterback position, stock down on 2, stock up on 1. We've talked about Tua. The stock just continues to dip more and more for Tua, and I think the stock is dipping down hard for CJ Stroud. It's mind-boggling how poor we've seen CJ Stroud from that rookie year where we thought he was going to be an elite fantasy quarterback just as a thrower. So stock down on Stroud, stock down on Tua. But it's impossible not to say stock up on Daniel Jones again. Because at this point, I think I'd be surprised if Daniel Jones doesn't get a contract extension at the end of this year from the Colts, and he's going to get another massive payday. Unless he collapses down the stretch, he's going to get another 4-year, $160 million contract. It's going to be mind-boggling that he has 2 of them on his resume. But I think that's where this is trending. And when he plays, we know he's fantasy viable. And Shane Steichen is now totally got in this passing production that we never saw in New York. So now you combine the rushing stuff and now the production that Shane Steichen's leading for him in terms of the passing game. And we're talking about a high-end fantasy quarterback if this continues. So stock up on Daniel Jones. At the running back position, stock up on Javonte Williams. He's only 25 years old, and now we are seeing him really perform well for Dallas this year. He's a couple years removed from the ACL injury at this point. And I think right now you just got to say, like, maybe he's fully back to being the guy who went high in his NFL draft, looked really good his first year with Denver. And I think stock up on him. I expect him maybe to re-sign in Dallas, nothing crazy, maybe like a 3-year, $21 million deal, but that might lock him into a starting job for a couple years. So I think that's something that, if he continues to play this well, he's going to get a starting gig moving forward. Tony Pollard stock down right now. The tight ends are struggling a lot, and they're working in Tyjae Spears a little bit more. So I think right now, stock down on Tony Pollard. Also think it is an opportunity to buy Zach Charbonnet. Kenneth Walker's a free agent after the year. Zach Charbonnet's got 1 year left on his rookie deal. I think he could be the lead guy there in Seattle next year. So I think right now he doesn't cost a lot because he's in this messy timeshare. And I do think Kenneth Walker is a more talented player. I just don't think they're going to re-sign Kenneth Walker when they still have Charbonnet there. So I kind of think we're heading towards Charbonnet being the starter next year. And if that's the case, you can get him right now and be stealing a guy who's going to be ranked significantly higher in rankings come next year. At the wide receiver position, stock up on Rashee Rice, Michael Pittman, Chris Olave, Jordan Addison. Stock down on Brian Thomas. I don't know what's going on with Brian Thomas. The ball skills are atrocious this year. The concentration is atrocious. I still would try to buy low, but I would not buy high anymore. I'm a little nervous. I still would buy him. If I can get him at a reduced rate, I will gladly take him. And I'm not talking crazy reduced rate, but if somebody's willing to give me what would equivalent to like a late first round rookie pick, I'm making the trade. Before the year started, that would be laughed at your face if you offered a late first round rookie pick. So I still would buy him. I just don't think you can buy him at what he was looked at prior to this season started. And if the team is valuing him like they did in the offseason, then you're not going to land them because I don't think you can pay that price. But Chris Olave looks as good as he ever has. We know he's uber talented. He stayed healthy so far this year. I mean, even with Spencer Rattler at the helm, he has looked great this year. So I think stock up on Chris Olave. It'd be interesting to kind of see if he works out a contract extension to stay there as one of the clear lead guys. Jordan Addison, I mean, I know he was gone the first couple of weeks due to suspension, but he's a really talented player. And I don't worry about Justin Jefferson being there. I don't think Jordan Addison could be a top 15 receiver, but we've seen Devonta Smith still be a strong, wide receiver 3, low wide receiver 2. I think that could be Jordan Addison's base right now, even with Justin Jefferson there. Rashee Rice, I don't know how high is too high. He probably needs to be in top 8 of Dynasty wide receiver rankings. I mean, after you get past the Justin Jeffersons, the Jamar Chase, the CeeDee Lambs, the Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Malik Neighbors, that's 5 off the cuff. I think Rashee Rice has got to be in that next mix with like the Nico Collinses of the world and players like that. I just think that's where he belongs. And then Michael Pittman, I think with the surprising success of Daniel Jones throwing the football, I think Michael Pittman's now been elevated back into a solid wide receiver 3. And before the year started, I think he was looked at as more of like a wide receiver 4-ish. I think now his stock is up a little bit and we're seeing more consistent play from Michael Pittman. So there it is, guys. Fantasy Dynasty Report, NFL Rookie Report for Week 7, and then it was the NFL Draft Report to kick off the show for Week 8 of the college football season. If you're enjoying this content, please get over to the website, SS Football, fastest and easiest way to get there. For $9.99, check out our premium content tab. You get all of our premium notebooks for $9.99, our scouting notebook, our rankings notebook, and the draft projections notebook. Check out the tabs for full details or reach out to me on Twitter. So on behalf of our sound tech engineer, David Nakano, and myself, we look forward next time taking you from Saturday to Sunday.